I don't think LeBron James necessarily played as horrible as some would think in the 2011 finals, but considering the context, I can understand why people give him so much flack for it. While he didn't nec- while he didn't he didn't succeed in winning anything in Cleveland, so he ended up going to Miami and paired up with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, and he did that little segment where he was like, "Oh, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five." That pretty much gave all type of pressure to him, whether he knew it or not. Um, I think it was just a very confusing performance. The two most confusing LeBron James performances I could say is most definitely his last series before he left Cleveland to go to Miami, and then the 2011 finals, because in that series versus the Boston Celtics, LeBron James had the first three three of some of the best playoff games of his life in those first three games, and then he pretty much disappeared in game 4 and game 5, and he went quiet down the stretch of game 6. And so for him to leave and then do the not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5 stuff in Miami, and for him to have that type of performance, that's probably between that performance, Steph Curry's performance in 16, and Kobe Bryant's performance in 2004, with all of context considered, those three are probably the worst finals performances of all time, with context considered. But yeah, LeBron James was very, very passive in that series. He only had one game where he was looking like LeBron James, and that was in game 1. I'm pretty sure the last 5 games of the series, he was averaging 16 or 15 points a game, and even though he wasn't performing where he needed to be, and and throughout the whole series, he's super quiet in the fourth quarter. He was pretty much gone in the fourth quarter. Like the 2011 finals, that was kind of like a series where it was oh, these games are pretty good, and oh, LeBron's here too. You never had that type of feeling with a guy like LeBron. So definitely for his standards, he played pretty bad. He was still a streaky jump shooter, even though he shot better than in 2007. But he could not play in the post game. He wasn't able to score on JJ Barea, and Jason Terry outplayed him, as the haters like to say all the time. But they what else? Yeah, throughout the first 3 games, the Heat were up 2-1, and then LeBron James quite literally had the worst basketball game of his life in game 4. He played so passive to where he had 8 points throughout the whole game. 8. A career 27-point per game scorer had 8 points in an NBA Finals game where he definitely could have scored more. And I watched some of the game. I think where it all really went wrong was his first shot of the game where he airballed a floater. But the LeBron haters, they've talked about this game multiple times over. Like, we're not 15 years into the future. They're acting like LeBron James just had this kind of series. But I understand why they give it so much credence due to the fact that what LeBron James did in with making the decision. I understand why they give it so much credence and context to necessarily that. This was by far LeBron James' worst performance in the finals. And that game 4 where he scored 8 points, the Heat lost only by 3. So it is. If I'll just say this, just to end it off. If LeBron James played slightly below average on his, if he played slightly below average of his own standards, the Heat would have probably won in 5 games. Because they blew a 15-point lead in game 2. LeBron was quiet in that fourth quarter. We already know about game 4. And then in game 5 and game 6, he still was playing quite passive scoring wise. So that was probably a time where LeBron was like, I need to improve as a player, instead of that. Instead, so in 2012 and 2013, the Heat ended up repeating and LeBron James won. But now into 2014, while I think the better team, it was obviously the Spurs. The better team was obviously the Spurs. The best player in that series, it was LeBron James, that 2014 NBA Finals. There's not really nothing necessarily I could say outside of the fact that the Spurs were pretty much shooting as a team like prime Stephen Curry. They played way better team basketball, and what Wade experienced with LeBron in 2011 is pretty much what LeBron experienced with Wade in 14, in which, like, man, we're supposed to be a duo and you're underperforming in this certain series. LeBron James, he had a hyper efficient 28 points per game. I think it was on 57 from the field, 52% from 3, and then 79% from free throw, which is like, my goodness, that pretty much everything he shot was like a coin flip. Even more above that, everything he pretty much shot, it was probably gonna go in. But he averaged, hyper efficient 28 points. His assists per game was only 4, and in a way, I guess you could say that could go into like how much help he had necessarily, because Chris Bosh, he wasn't he didn't perform necessarily bad, but it wasn't like he was high tier performing or anything. Um, just in that series, like the Heat got outplayed, man, and yeah, and it's just that he got outplayed. The Finals MVP, Kawhi Leonard, he was guarding LeBron, even, and he won those Finals MVPs based off of the last 3 games, I believe, and um, he was he went those games 3 and game 4s. That was I watched that series myself when I was little, and I was like, oh, because like that game 3 and game 4, it was in Miami. That they weren't missing nothing. I think what LeBron haters will give flack for LeBron in this particular series is the fact that sometimes LeBron was being very passive. LeBron James' best game was the only game that they won in game 2. It's not like LeBron played bad, but he was still a little bit passive. And every now and then there were stretches where he wasn't trying to score, but every it looks a little bit better due to the fact that every shot that LeBron was shooting in this particular series, it was going in. So and then we go back to Cleveland in 2015. This one definitely deserves a whole bunch of context with and against LeBron, primarily due to the fact that Kevin Love was out for pretty much the whole playoffs. He got his shoulder tore out by Kelly Olynyk in the first round. And then Kyrie, who literally went into the finals a little bit hobbled. His kneecap ended up exploding in the overtime of game 1 of the 2015 NBA Finals. So for pretty much the last 5 games, LeBron James didn't have his 2 best teammates with him, and he was averaging 36, 13, and 9, 36 points, 13 rebounds, and 9 assists. He was still having those type of averages even without his best teammates. And that was a time where I was thinking like, oh, this is the greatest player ever. Like, this man is putting up these type of numbers against this type of Warriors team without his 2 best teammates. And like, okay, wow, this is the best player ever. Like, this man had 2 all-time great games in game 2 and game 3, going up 2-1. Now, this is where LeBron is going to get a little bit of flack, and even though I think it's a little bit too much hating, I could see why people give him flack for this necessarily. LeBron James throughout that whole series, he was averaging 36 points, but he was 38% from the field while doing it, and 31% from three while doing it. Now, granted, nobody on the Cavs was shooting any better, but sometimes that type of stuff deserves context because LeBron James at the time, he was best player in the world. So you would hope he would have been more efficient. And that game 4 where Steve Kerr decided to put Andre Iguodala on LeBron James, that game 4 was LeBron James' worst game of that particular series. He scored 20 points on 7 for 22. He went 7 for 22 and only scored 20 points in that game 4 where he was up 2-1. And I'm pretty sure you could say in a way that gave the Warriors momentum, and they ended up winning 5 and 6. Even though LeBron still played great in game 5 and 6, it seemed kind of like that game 4 was a momentum changer in a way. So that is something that they give LeBron James flack for, but dude, outside of that, dude, like in that series, the guy was ridiculous, especially with the context that was in his favor necessarily. The man was missing his 2 best teammates, and he was still putting up those types of numbers. Pretty much, if anything, when Kyrie's kneecap exploded, you would have expected the Golden State Warriors to sweep the Cavs, but in a way, with LeBron's efforts, he pretty much took the series to 6 games, and this was the second time a guy who won Finals MVP was hyper efficient from the field and was trying to guard LeBron. But I will always be someone, and this is the LeBron fan coming out of me, I will always be someone that thinks to myself that LeBron James should have won the 2015 Finals MVP. Like, he was no doubt the best player in the series, and this is the second time I've said this in a finals loss, like 2014 and now 2015. This second time I've said that LeBron James was no doubt the best player in this series. But hey, every now and then there's gonna be losing, whether it's in the first round of the playoffs or it's on the biggest stage. Sometimes your performance doesn't do enough necessarily, in a way. So, and then even if you do lose, but you perform great, people will still give you criticism in a way. But, and then in 2016, he won, and then after the 2016 Finals, Stephen Curry and Draymond Green went straight to Kevin Durant, told Kevin Durant, dude, we need you. We can't win against this guy. And the Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors go at it in the NBA Finals for a third time in 2017. Now, this is pretty much a perfect series from LeBron James, where he, there's pretty much with no flaws, but the guy went against a super team. Personally, watching the 2017 finals for me was very frustrating because no matter what LeBron James or Kyrie Irving did, it still felt like the game was pretty much out of hand, primarily due to the fact that a 73-9 team from the year before that made the NBA Finals went and got a top 3 player in the world at that time. They pretty much went and added the top 3 player in the world at that time. So it's like, oh wow, gotta do all this to try to beat a Cavaliers team that everybody already thought you were better than. Even though the Warriors lost in 16, they were still favored in 17 without Kevin Durant. And then they got Kevin Durant. So, yeah, watching the 2017 finals for me, very frustrating because LeBron James and Kyrie Irving were doing everything in their power to, try to win. And it pretty much resulted in nothing, primarily due to the fact that Kevin Durant was added to the Warriors squad. LeBron James during this series, he averaged a very efficient 33-point triple-double. The only basketball player to ever average a triple-double in a finals series. And you would think, without hearing context about that, you would think, oh, this is the only basketball player to ever average a triple-double in an NBA Finals series? He must have won, right? But he was going against a super team. So, but the only thing that people might, and I think this is unnecessary, the only thing that LeBron James haters might nitpick from this specific series was that game 3. LeBron James did go a little bit quiet in the fourth quarter in game 3. And Kevin Durant hit the shot of shots over LeBron in transition, and it was, and wouldn't necessarily say the series was over right there, but like, no basketball team has ever came back from a 3-0 lead. It's happened in other sports that have 7-game series, but it's never happened basketball wise. But hey, outside of that, what really could they do, man? Really. And even though LeBron James did average a 33-point triple-double in the finals, this was his 5th NBA Finals loss. And, on to the next year. 2018 Cavaliers. Kyrie Irving left. The Warriors were still the Warriors. LeBron James had one of the best playoff runs of all time in the 2018 playoffs. It was genuinely insane. The man had 8 40-point games throughout the whole playoffs, and mind you, the Cavaliers played 22 games, and LeBron James had 8 40-point games throughout 22 playoff games. So, something like this was very, you could look back on it and hey, it was very insane. But LeBron James, he went into the finals, um, obviously not being a favorite, and it's crazy to think that LeBron James has been favored in only 3 NBA Finals when he has went to 10. And even though he lost when he should have won in 2011, he also won when he should have lost in 2016. So it's kind of like, But 2018 wise, LeBron James had the greatest finals game in his career in game 1 of the 2018 finals. He was still, it was obvious that he was still riding off that high in the Boston Celtics series, because he dropped 51 in game 1 of the NBA Finals, and we all know what happened at the very end. JR, he made the biggest finals blunder of all time, and LeBron James 51 points. It pretty much went under the radar due to the fact that he lost. I mean, still talked about in a way, but I think it would have been a little bit of a momentum changer if LeBron James, if the Cleveland Cavaliers won game 1 of that series. Throughout the rest of the 3 games, LeBron was still playing like LeBron, but it was obvious that J.R. Smith blunder, it was, man. And Cleveland Cavaliers ended up getting swept, and there's no particular game, or there was no stretch of the series where LeBron James you could be critical of the guy. The only, pretty much what they criticized was, oh, LeBron James been swept 2 times in the finals? And I think to myself, wow, okay, that's awesome. I guess LeBron James is a loser. Put him in there with the losers, like the 4-ring losers, like Wayne Gretzky, Shaq, or Joe Montana. I guess they all got 4 rings. I guess they must be losers. And then, hey, he got swept 2 times in the finals. I guess he's a loser, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. I guess so. I don't know if they got swept 2 times in the finals. Maybe y'all need to look that up. But hey, I just think that type of criticism this guy gets, it's unfair and hypocritical. Like, you could say something, you could have some type of criticism about LeBron James, and then you bring up another player who had the same type of production LeBron James had in your criticism, or even worse, and then you provide an excuse for them. It's obvious that LeBron James didn't have the best first 2 finals, but the man went to 8 more finals in 9 years, where he was the best player in the series 8 times over. And if you want to give Kevin Durant 2017, sure, but the man was the best player in the series 8 times over. So I think it's a little exaggerated if you just hate on this guy's NBA Finals record, because sure, without context, it does look like crap. But if you truly looked into it and how he has performed, you could spread it out from that point in a way. But hey, LeBron James' career, it isn't over. He's going into year 24 with the Philadelphia 76ers. And hey, maybe he makes his 11th NBA Finals. And will we have what he did in his first two or his last 8? Who knows? But hey, man, I think there's too much criticism on the guy, man. I personally think he's the greatest player ever. If you don't think that, like, okay, I guess, but just to take a crap on the man's career, I think it's too much to do in terms of that. The man's had an unbelievable career, especially due to the pressure that was put on him as a high schooler, and he far exceeded those expectations. So that's just my opinion. Tell me what y'all think down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.